Yeah, what's up with y'all motherfuckers? You know what I mean? Yeah, we got that simple paint, another simple paint video, the worst sports accidents ever survived. We finna get straight into this. I ain't got nothing else to say to y'all. I just got back from work. I'm about to get high. Finna watch this video.
Ice hockey. On January 29th,
Ice hockey, bro. The ice hockey niggas be crazy.
2000, the Montreal Canadiens were playing the Philadelphia Flyers at the Molson Center. Trent McCleary was a 27-year-old forward who never got drafted. He made the NHL by doing what other players wouldn't. He threw himself in front of shots. In the second period, Flyers defenseman Chris Therien wound up for a shot. McCleary dropped to the ice to block it. The puck hit him in the throat. The impact broke his voice box and collapsed his right lung. His throat swelled shut and filled with blood.
Oh my god!
Broke his voice box and collapsed his right lung. His throat swelled shut and...
Bro! Damn!
Chris Therien wound up for a shot. McCleary dropped to the ice to block it. The puck hit him in the throat. The impact broke his voice box and collapsed his right lung. His throat swelled shut and filled with blood. He was suffocating. Without air, the brain starts dying in 4 minutes. McCleary got up and skated to the bench, spitting blood. He tried to tell the trainer he couldn't breathe. Then he passed out. Medical staff rushed him into the hallway. A breathing tube wouldn't fit through his swollen throat. They poked through with a needle. 17 minutes later, he was in surgery, still in full gear and skates. Doctors cut a hole in his throat to get him air. His doctor said he came as close as you could come to dying. After surgery,
nigga got a hole cut in his throat so he could breathe? Ain't that a bitch? Bro, that's insane.
McCleary couldn't talk. He wrote his teammates a note.
Why did he get that low to the ground, though?
500 on the board for the win. Battle hard. Go Habs. He didn't speak again for 6 weeks. His throat healed 15% narrower than before. He tried to come back, but couldn't last a single shift. He never played again. Years later, he said he'd do it again. Jeb Corliss.
Oh, so you didn't learn your lesson. Fuck you mean you wouldn't do it again? Alright, then do it again then. Like, what does he mean? Does he mean he will play hockey again? Or what does he mean by that? That's such a vague... I'm just gonna assume that he's talking about the shit that he went through. And if that's the case, hey, bro.
On January 16th, 2012,
your life.
Jeb Corliss jumped off Table Mountain in Cape Town, South Africa.
Is this always the white motherfuckers too? Like, yo, white motherfuckers be... I respect the being adventurous and shit and doing daredevil shit, because some shit, like, some of the shit motherfuckers be doing, I would do, but when motherfuckers be flipping off of buildings and shit, and then, like, I just be like, nigga, see... if you fall, I'm not gonna feel sorry for you.
January 16th, 2012, Jeb Corliss jumped off Table Mountain in Cape Town, South Africa. He was wearing a wingsuit, a suit that lets you glide through the air like a flying squirrel.
Yeah.
Corliss was 35 and had been doing this for 18 years. The plan was to fly between 2 balloons on a ledge. Another jumper went first as a test. Nobody noticed the wind from his flight pushed the balloons lower, closer to the rock. Corliss jumped. At 120 miles per hour, his left foot clipped a boulder, and his body slammed into the side of the mountain. The suit ripped apart. He flipped and tumbled down the rock. He had a choice. Pull his parachute and die slow, or don't pull and hit the mountain. He pulled. The parachute opened. Corliss crashed onto a hiking trail. He was alive. Both ankles were broken. His shin was gashed to the bone. Inside both thighs, the impact tore the muscles clean off the bones under the skin.
Holy shit! My nigga, you said it ripped?
Inside both thighs, the impact tore the muscles clean off the bones under the skin.
It tore him clean off the bone under the skin. What the fuck?
Doctors called it...
How did he get so close? Why was he so close to this shit? Because the air balloons were... Man,
they
what
loaded
the fuck?
him into the ambulance. A paramedic said it looked like a double amputation. Corliss heard that. If they were talking about cutting off his legs, it meant he wasn't dead yet. The crushed muscle from his legs leaked into his blood. By the time he got to the hospital, his kidneys were shutting down. He spent a year recovering in South Africa. He refused painkillers. 3 years later, he said this sport is going to kill him. He still jumps. Elena Bereznaya.
So 2 people who didn't learn their lesson. Hey, you know what, bro? if that's like your life purpose is to jump off of buildings and fly around, like I bet that shit is cool. I don't know, bro. I don't know if I could do that. I'm gonna be real. I just would. I don't know. Who knows? I may be able to do that. I know I'm able to do it, but
Figure skating. On January 9th, 1996, Elena Bereznaya was at a rink in Riga, Latvia, training with her skating partner,
I don't even know
Oleg
what the fuck that
Shliakov.
is.
It was a morning practice. They were doing side-by-side spins, both leaning forward with one leg stretched out behind them. Their blades were moving inches apart. Shliakov drifted too close. His skate blade came up and sliced.
oh my god, bro. Watch where you're going, man. The fuck? Damn, nigga, what was your motherfucking foot that high? What the hell? What was his foot this goddamn high? I know it couldn't have been this high in real life.
into the side of her head. It cut right through the bone.
Oh nah, bro.
That part of the skull is one of the thinnest. There was nothing between the blade and her brain. The force pushed pieces of bone into the brain.
Bro, this shit is making my head itch, bro. Like, what the hell? Most people don't survive, but she did. Yeah, this is making my head
don't
itch.
survive that. The pieces damaged her speech center and Bereznaya couldn't talk. The right side of her body went limp. Doctors weren't sure she would walk again. She had 2 operations to pull the pieces out. A skater named Anton Sikarolidze came to get her. He put her on a night train to St. Petersburg for better care. Sikarolidze was 19. He read to her every day. When she couldn't respond, he kept talking anyway. 2 months after the blade went into her skull, Bereznaya stepped onto the ice again. She said she had no dreams about the future. All she thought about was those first steps. She and Sikarolidze started competing together later that year. They took bronze at their first event. 2 years later, they won the World Championship. Olympic gold came in 2002. Her speech never fully came back. Kevin Everett, American football.
Shout out
It
to
was
her.
September 9th, 2007. The Buffalo Bills were playing the Denver Broncos at Ralph Wilson Stadium. First game of the season. Kevin Everett was a 25-year-old tight end on the kickoff team. On the second half kickoff, Everett ran to tackle returner Dominic Hickson. Their helmets hit. Everett
Damn.
went stiff and fell face first into the turf. He didn't get up. No thumbs up, no wave. Players waited for a sign he was okay. Nothing came. The only thing moving was his eyes. The third and fourth bones in his neck were broken and knocked out of place. At that level, the spinal cord controls breathing and everything below it. If it gets cut, you die. Everett's was nearly cut through. He was paralyzed from the shoulders down. 13 minutes after the hit, the team surgeon pumped ice-cold salt water into Everett's veins in the ambulance. No one had tried this for a spinal cord injury before. The cold slows the swelling and stops it from killing the nerves that are still alive. There was no rule book for it. The surgeon had learned about it at a seminar a year earlier. That was the only reason he knew to try. 2 days later, Everett wiggled a toe. Then he moved an arm. Then both hands. 3 months after that, he walked onto the field at Ralph Wilson Stadium on his own. No wheelchair. No walker. He never played football again. Alex Zanardi tried this for a spinal cord. Everett's was nearly cut through. Players waited for a sign he was okay.
Nah, that nigga ain't getting
The
up.
only
That
thing
nigga
moving
got
was his eyes. The third and fourth
CTE
bones in his
squared.
neck were broken and knocked out of place.
Damn.
At that level, the spinal cord controls breathing and everything below it. If it gets cut, you die. Everett's was nearly cut through. He was paralyzed from the shoulders down. 13 minutes after the hit, the team surgeon pumped ice-cold salt water into Everett's veins in the ambulance. No one had
Ice-cold
tried
salt
this for
water?
a spinal cord injury before. The cold
ice cold salt water. And you said no one's tried it before, nigga. What makes you? Why did they want to do that? What made them think to do that? God damn, get your fucking
Everett's
words
veins
out.
in the ambulance. No one had tried this for a spinal cord injury before. The cold slows the swelling and stops it from killing the nerves that are still alive.
Oh, yeah.
There was no rule book for it. The surgeon had learned about it at a seminar a year earlier. That was the only reason he knew to try. 2 days later, Everett wiggled a toe. Then he moved an arm. Then both hands. 3 months after that, he walked onto the field at Ralph Wilson Stadium on his own. No wheelchair. No walker. He never played football again.
Good.
Alex Zanardi, motorsport. On September 15th, 2001, Alex Zanardi was racing at the Lausitzring in Germany. He was 34, Italian.
I'm about to say because like football, you can't really predict what's gonna happen with football, bro. If you already got a head injury like that, and it almost killed you like that, man, going back on there would be retarded because nigga, you don't know like. You know, niggas get head injuries all the time. You're getting tackled and all that. Like, you don't know the next time you might end up hitting your head again. Next time, you're not gonna wake up. You already came this close. You're not gonna get that close again. Next time, the only thing that's gonna be closed is them heaven gates behind you. Welcome to heaven, nigga. All right, let me stop.
And a two-time racing champion. With 13 laps to go, Zanardi was leading. He came into the pits for fuel and pulled back onto the track. His tires caught the grass. The car spun and stopped sideways across the champion. With 13 laps to go, Zanardi was leading. He came into the pits for fuel and pulled back onto the track. His tires caught the grass. The car spun and stopped sideways across the racing surface. Patrick Carpentier swerved and missed him. Alex Tagliani right behind could not.
Damn.
He hit the side of Zanardi's car at close to 200 miles per hour.
Damn.
The car split in two. Both of Zanardi's legs were gone, torn off and scattered across the track in pieces. Both main arteries in his legs were ripped open, and blood poured down the track. The first doctor to reach him slipped in it. He had to crawl the rest of the way on his knees.
Nigga, the doctor slipped? You're fired. You're fired. You're fired, my nigga. You slipped on the blood? How did you even... I mean, it's not, I'm not mad at him. It's just like, dog, this is not the time to be that fucking cartoon movie ass shit. Niggas about to die and you're over here slipping. Like, nigga.
Zanardi lost over 70% of his blood. His heart stopped 7 times.
What
A
the
priest came and
fuck?
prayed over him. He survived over 15 minutes with less than a liter of blood. Doctors said that should not be possible.
What
He
the
woke up
fuck?
dazed. A priest came and prayed over him. He survived over 15 minutes with less than a liter of blood. Doctors said that should not be possible.
What
He
the
woke up
fuck?
days later. His legs were gone. Zanardi designed and built his own prosthetic legs. He went
Really?
back to racing. Then he took up hand cycling and won Paralympic gold in London in 2012. 4 years later, he won gold again in Rio. Bethany Hamilton.
Shout out to him.
On October 31st, 2003,
Is this-
Bethany Hamilton went surfing at Tunnels Beach.
Is this what that one surf movie is based off of? I forgot what it's called. But there was a movie about a girl who got like bit in some surfing shit, some surfing accident by a shark, and then she survived. And there was a movie about it. I remember seeing that like years ago though.
On the north shore of Kauai, Hawaii. She was 13 years old, already had sponsors, and was expected to go pro. Her best
Excuse?
friend and her friend's father came with her. The water was clear. The waves were small.
Why is bro looking at him like?
Pro. Her best friend and her friend's father.
Look at the friend's father. Why are they looking at? Why are you looking at her like that though? I don't know. After nowadays, bro, you just gotta look at everything because you never
Came
know.
with her. The water was clear. The waves were small. There was no sign of anything in the water. Hamilton was lying on her board with her left arm hanging in the water. A 14-foot tiger shark came up from below and bit down. It took her entire left arm just below the shoulder. The whole thing lasted about 2 or 3 seconds. The water around her turned red. Hamilton didn't scream. She paddled toward shore with one arm. Her friend's father reached her and wrapped a surfboard leash around the stump to slow the bleeding. At 60% blood loss, most people die. By the time she got to the hospital, she had passed that number. Her father was already there that morning for knee surgery. They wheeled him out of the operating room and wheeled her in. Same room,
Damn.
same doctor. There was no arm left to save. The shark had taken it clean. 26 days
Yeah,
later,
this is it.
Hamilton got back on a surfboard. 10 weeks after that, she entered a competition. She taught herself to surf with one arm, kicking harder to make up for what was gone. She won her first national title in 2005. She still surfs professionally. Fabrice Muamba, football. On March 17th,
Okay.
2012,
Yeah, I think that's the
Bolton
same
Wanderers
girl. I think that's the same girl. What that movie was about. I might put a picture of it up just in case for the people who was curious.
were playing Tottenham in an FA Cup quarterfinal at White Hart Lane. Fabrice Muamba was a 23-year-old midfielder. 30,000 fans were in the stadium. Millions more watched on television. 41 minutes in.
Blue Lock got me into soccer. Blue Lock got me into soccer, bro. Shout out to Blue Lock.
Muamba dropped near the halfway line. Nobody was near him. Nobody touched him
Okay,
in an
what
FA Cup
happened?
quarterfinal at White Hart Lane. Fabrice Muamba was a 23-year-old midfielder. 30,000 fans were in the stadium. Millions more watched on television. 41 minutes in, Muamba dropped near the halfway line. Nobody was near him. Nobody touched him. His heart had stopped. When
Oh.
the heart stops, the brain starts shutting down in minutes. After 10, most people are gone. A team doctor reached him in seconds and started pushing on his chest. They shocked his heart twice on the pitch. Nothing happened. Up in the stands, a heart doctor named Andrew Diener saw Muamba go down. He was only at the game because his nephew couldn't use the ticket. Diener talked his way past a steward and ran onto the pitch. He told the ambulance crew to skip the nearest hospital and go to his instead. They shocked Muamba 13 more times in the ambulance. None of them worked. When they arrived, he had been dead for 48 minutes. Doctors shocked him 15 more times. His
so
heart
this
still
nigga's
would not
dead. So he died right there.
A machine kept pushing on his chest. Then, 78 minutes after his heart stopped, it started again on its own. Nobody expected him to wake up. His club doctor said he didn't believe Muamba would ever open his eyes again. 2 weeks later, a photo came out of him sitting up in bed, smiling. He retired at 24. He now coaches kids at Bolton. Pritchard Cullen, boxing. On October 17th, 2015.
So, I'm confused. So what happened to the dude?
Ask that number. Her father was already there.
Nah, bro. Come on.
And ran onto the pitch.
So
he told the ambulance crew to skip the nearest hospital and go to his instead. They shocked Muamba 13 more times in the ambulance. None of them worked. When they arrived, he had been dead for 48 minutes. Doctors shocked him 15 more times. His heart still would not start. A machine kept pushing on his chest. Then, 78 minutes after his heart stopped, it started again on its own. Nobody expected him to wake up. His club doctor said he didn't believe Muamba would ever open his eyes again. 2 weeks later, a photo came out of him sitting up in bed, smiling. He retired at 24. He now coaches kids at Bolton.
Shout out to
Pritchard
him.
Cullen, boxing. On October 17th, 2015, Pritchard Cullen fought Terrell Williams at Eagle Bank Arena in Virginia. Cullen was 23 from Puerto Rico, undefeated at 16-0. 13 of those wins were knockouts. Through the first 5 rounds, Cullen was ahead on all 3 scorecards. Then Williams started hitting him in the back of the head. In boxing, those are called rabbit punches. They are illegal because the brainstem sits right there. A hard enough hit can kill you, Cullen told the referee. The referee told him to take care of it himself. Williams kept throwing them. In the 7th round, Cullen walked to the ringside doctor with his hand on the back of his head. He said he was dizzy. The doctor let him keep fighting. By the 9th, Williams had knocked Cullen down twice. Between rounds, his corner took off his gloves, thinking the fight was over. The referee disqualified him. Cullen made it to the dressing room. He tried to sit in a chair and fell to the floor. He started vomiting. Inside his skull, blood was pooling between his brain and the bone. The bleeding was crushing his brain from the...
Oh no! What? The bleeding was crushing his brain? Oh, just seeing that picture was like, hell no.
Inside, surgeons cut open his skull to let the swelling out. Cullen went into a coma. He stayed in it for 221 days. When he woke up, he couldn't move. He couldn't talk. He couldn't eat on his own. His mother feeds him, bathes him, and speaks for him. That was 10 years ago. Nothing has changed. Niki Lauda.
Damn, bro. And that nigga was saying something, and nigga was like, nah, you're fine, go back up. We should sue them. Could you do that? Could you sue him? That was 10 years ago. I can't talk. I can't do, like, I ain't gonna lie. I wouldn't even want to be living at that point. I'm gonna be, like, me personally, like, I know it's dark and shit, whatever, bro. I don't want to be alive. Kill me. Just let me go, bro. If I can't move, talk, if I can't do shit for myself at all, I just don't see a reason for me to live. I'm just being real. Like, there's nothing to live for at that point in my head. I'm just like, nigga, I don't want to be here no more. I can't do shit by myself. You got to do everything for me. Like, nah, bro.
Formula One. On August 1st, 1976, 27-year-old Austrian world champion Niki Lauda was racing in the German Grand Prix at the Nürburgring. Before the race, he tried to get the other drivers to refuse to race. He said the track was too dangerous. They voted against him by 1 vote. 2 laps in, his Ferrari snapped to the right at a fast bend. It hit a wall of dirt, bounced back onto the track, and burst into flames. Lauda was trapped inside. 4 other drivers stopped and pulled him out. The fire burned away his eyelids and most of his scalp. Half of his right ear was gone. His hands were burned through to the flesh. He breathed in hot, poisonous gas that damaged his lungs. A priest was called. They thought he was going to die. He was in a coma for days. 42 days later, Lauda showed up at the Italian Grand Prix. Blood soaked through the bandages under his helmet. He could not close his eyes because his eyelids were gone. He finished 4th. The 1976 championship went to James Hunt by a single point. Lauda won the title back the next year. Then he retired, came back in 1984, and won it again. 3 world championships total. For the rest of his life, Lauda wore a red cap to cover the scars. The lung damage from the fire never healed. He died in 2019. Clint Malarchuk, ice hockey.
Rest
On
in
March
peace.
22nd, 1989,
That's crazy.
the Buffalo Sabres were playing the St. Louis Blues at the Odd in Buffalo. Clint Malarchuk was in net. First period. 2 players crashed into the crease. As
Damn.
they fell, Steve Tuttle's skate blade caught Malarchuk on the right side of his neck. It cut his carotid artery and part of his jugular vein. The carotid carries blood to the brain. A cut one can kill you in minutes. Blood shot out with every heartbeat. The white ice turned red. 11 fans fainted, and 2 had heart attacks. 3 players threw up on the ice. Sabres trainer Jim Pizzatelli sprinted out. He had been a combat medic in Vietnam. He reached into the wound and pinched the artery shut with his fingers. He did not let go until doctors took over. Malarchuk was awake through all of it. He wanted off the ice because his mother was watching on television. He did not want her to see him die. Doctors used 300 stitches to close the wound. He lost a third of his blood. He was back on the ice 10 days later. Nobody gave him counseling. He had PTSD, and nobody knew for 20 years. He drank to quiet his brain. In 2008, he put a rifle under his chin and pulled the trigger. The bullet went through his chin, his teeth, and his mouth. It stopped just short of his brain.
Bro, what the fuck? This is the second one I've heard about a nigga getting his shit sliced open because they were doing shit on ice. In fact, yeah, the fucking first one was about hockey. Damn, hockey a dangerous sport. Hockey a dangerous sport.
It is still there. He's
What the fuck?
counseling. He had PTSD, and nobody knew for 20 years.
20 years having PTSD and no one knowing is insane. Hey, that's niggas though. That's how it be. Not even. Yeah, I'm gonna say niggas. I'm gonna be real.
He drank to quiet
that's
his
how
brain.
it be
In
for men.
2008, he put a rifle under his chin and pulled the trigger. The bullet went through his chin, his teeth, and his mouth. It stopped just short of his brain. It is still there.
So the bullet is in his brain. What the? I ain't never heard no shit like that, bro. I ain't heard no shit like that since that Malala shit that happened like a decade or so ago. If you remember what happened with her, it was just like some girl was on this bus. The Taliban came on there. They shot at her for whatever reason. They shot her in the head, and then the bullet stopped right outside the school. But this nigga, from what I'm seeing, from what I just seen, it's in his brain. So this is even crazier. He needs to get that shit
He
out.
survived that too. He works in mental health now. Alex Smith, American
Damn.
football. On November 18th, 2018, Washington quarterback Alex Smith was hit by 2 Houston defenders in the third quarter. His right
Damn.
leg broke in a spiral from his ankle to his knee.
Oh
the
my
bone came
God.
through the skin.
Oh
he was
my-
34. Doctors put in 3 plates and 28 screws. They told him he'd be out in 2 days. He stayed. By Wednesday night, he could barely stay awake. His fever kept climbing. His
Fucking
blood
less than
pressure
2
was
days.
dropping. They ran
Fucking bone sticking up my leg. I ain't going nowhere.
tests and found bacteria in his blood. The infection
Bro.
was spreading. His body was shutting down. Thursday morning, a doctor unwrapped his bandages. A few hours earlier, the leg looked fine. Now it was black. They rushed him
Oh.
back into surgery. The infection had spread through the muscle and skin in his leg. It was
Oh.
flesh-eating bacteria. Nope.
Nigga, how? How did you get that? How did you get flesh-eating bacteria? Nigga, you already in here because your leg is... That was just horrible.
Nobody knows how it got in. For a week straight, doctors cut him open every day to remove dead skin and muscle. 8 surgeries. When they were done, his shin bone was exposed from knee to ankle. No muscle, no skin, just bone.
Bro, why does this keep popping up? This... Man.
Doctors said his leg now looked more like a military blast injury than a sports injury.
Damn.
He had 2 options: amputate, or let doctors move muscle from his left leg to cover the bone. There was no guarantee it would work. He chose the transfer. 17 surgeries total over 9 months. In 2020, Alex Smith started at quarterback again. He was voted comeback player of the year. Romain Grosjean, Formula One.
Wow.
44 years after Lauda burned at the Nürburgring, it happened again. On November 29, 2020, Romain Grosjean was racing in the Bahrain Grand Prix, first lap. His car clipped another driver and shot off the track at 120 miles per hour. It hit a metal barrier and went straight through it. The car split in two. The fuel tank tore open. Everything caught fire. Grosjean was strapped into the front half, buried inside the barrier, surrounded by flames. The fire was over 1,500 degrees. His racing suit could protect him for about 20 seconds. He was in there for 28. He tried to climb out, but his seatbelt was stuck. He sat back down. His mind went to Niki Lauda, then to his 3 kids watching at home. He tried again. His left foot was jammed in the wreckage. He pulled until his foot came out of his shoe. He stood up in the flames and jumped over the barrier. 1 shoe gone, 1 glove gone, covered in soot, alive. A piece of curved titanium above the cockpit had pushed the metal rail over his head on impact. Without it, the rail would have hit him in the helmet. It was called a halo. The cars had only had them since 2018. Grosjean had argued against putting it on. He walked away with burns on his hands. No broken bones. His left hand still aches when the temperature drops. If you'd like to see more videos like this, make sure...
Hey, that was the best case scenario of that shit. Because what? Imagine that shit will blew up. Shout out to Simple Paint, man. Shout out to Simple Paint, bro. This was, yeah. More of the story. Hockey is dangerous as shit. Like, and I've always known this, but damn, like the fact that that shit was on here 3 times. Now, it wasn't really on here 3 times, but the first time with the nigga with his leg all the way up that ended up slicing someone's shit, that nigga was, that wasn't ice hockey. They were ice skating, but still, it's the same shit for the most part. You're still on ice skating and whatnot. Same shit. But anyway, that's the video. I hope y'all be safe. If y'all are in hockey or if y'all in any sport, man, just try to be as careful as possible. Of course, you can't really control everything, but you know, putting what's the word? Putting the effort out, it never hurts. All right. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all. Peace.